it's good to see you again. Last week we did a picture that taught us a little bit about making long shadows with our little fox hiding in the woods. Now we're going to focus on the fox. We're going to have Stay Clever Little Fox. Our clever little fox is going to be close up, and the trees are going to be way, way in the background. We're also going to learn how to, instead of just using marker to color in, we're going to learn how we can make marker act like watercolor, okay? So first of all, let's make our little fox. He's going to take up a large portion of our page, and I'm going to start with a pencil because if I do that, any mistakes I make are pretty easy to erase. So I'm going to start with his head, and I want you to think of a triangular shape, but no hard corners. So see how this is kind of triangular, but it's got these softer edges to it right here and here, okay? Alrighty, so that's gonna be our fox's head. Then he's gonna have long ears. They usually have tall, pointy ears coming off the top like so. And if at any time I'm not crazy about how this is going, I can always erase it and adjust it because I'm drawing lightly. Then I am going to draw kind of an upside down J on one side that comes all the way down like that, and then another one over here because he's going to have an eye over here and an eye over here, and then this long narrow area will be for his nose. So I'm going to give him a little nose. I'm going to give him an eye here and an eye right there. They might not be exactly the same on both sides, but that's okay. We're doing our best. Then our fox needs to have a body. We're going to come out a little bit and then down. See how I go out and come back in again? It's going to go out and then come back in again. Okay, so it gets wider and then much thinner. And then the area around his chest quite often is white. So I'm gonna make a little area right here where it will be white. This area up here will be the oranger portion of it. And then his front legs will just be two U shapes, really skinny U shapes. There's one and there's two. And I can even round up the top, something like that, okay? Almost looks like a little hot dog, two little hot dogs right next to each other. And this is gonna be his paw, and this will be the other one, okay? Then he's gonna have hind legs like so, that come out with little feet like that, okay? So one leg over here, one leg over here. And then let's give him a nice tail. It usually starts thin, gets wide, and then gets thin again. And then up here on the end, I'm gonna make a place where there will be white. His ears are gonna have a little different color inside, so I'll do something like that. And quite often they have whiskers, okay? Now in the background, because I don't want him just floating in space, I might draw some of my trees. Last time we learned how if you draw a little trunk of a tree down like this, if the sun is shining off to this side, the shadows go in this direction. So there will be a long shadow that way. And so let's see, there might be another one behind him, and it'll come down and end somewhere behind him. We won't see where it ends, so we'll just draw the shadow over there. I think that may be a little wide. Let's make it a little narrower. And then maybe another one way off in the background. A couple little ones way back there. And remember, the shadow goes all the way to the edge of the page because it's a really long shadow. The sun is low, low, low in the sky. Okay, I could make another tree over here if I want to. It's up to you. So, let's see, I think maybe one more. This one will be behind his tail. And the shadow might come across behind his head here. There we go. Now, I think it's time for us to start talking about adding some color. Like last week, I think we're going to use similar colors. We'll use our blacks, our grays, and our orange. The difference this time is I want you to get a permanent black marker if you have one. Because the permanent black marker, what'll happen is whether we get it wet or not, it will not run, it will stay put. And I'm going to outline my objects with the Sharpie. I'm going to outline my tree trunks. Okay, and on the trees, you can put some lines because quite often that's what happens. There's like a wood texture happening on the trees, and some swirls and some stripes and things like that. Okay, now we're gonna outline. Don't worry about your shadows. We'll get those in a minute. But let's outline our clever little fox. And if you want to, instead of making the edge of him perfectly smooth, you notice that sometimes I make these little jagged lines to make it look like he's a little bit furry. And you can do that too. Here's his nose, one side coming up. And here's the other side coming up. Again, this is an outline with Sharpie or permanent marker. Okay, and there we go. Now it's time to do his eyes. I'm going to color them in, and I'm going to leave a little spot white to give it a little bit of a shine or a reflection, and it will give his eyes a little more personality. And then I'm going to color in the nose and leave a little white on the nose to give it a little shine or reflection. And there's our whiskers. Clever, clever, Mr. Fox. Alrighty. So next, we're going to add the color, and this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to have you get a cup of water and a nice brush, okay? And what you're going to do is we're going to color in the areas with marker first, and then we go over it with water, and it'll spread out like watercolor. But here's the thing, I don't want to just scribble on here. I'm going to draw little lines like it's fur, and I'm going to have them coming straight up, okay? Because these lines will still show after I'm done, and I want them to have a nice texture to them. Do you see how now I'm spreading them out kind of like a waterfall or like a firework? And they're just gonna spread out to the edges of the fox's head. I'm not coloring him in, I'm just giving him some texture, some fur lines. And then, I'm not gonna do it everywhere. I'm gonna stop and show you now. You get your water, wipe your brush, and then when you paint over it with water, you can still see some of the fur strokes, but it makes him a nice bright orange. He's becoming truly our clever little fox. Such a handsome guy. Now I can do some more of him. His ears. And I don't want to put a ton of water on. I just want to have enough so that my brush is wet, and that when I go over the top of it, it spreads it around. And there we go. Excellent. So now the next thing we can do is we can look at doing his body. This time I'm going to have the fur coming away from his face, kind of like this. Little strokes, little lines. Now what we're going to focus on, you could give him a minute to dry and come back to it. So that the next thing we're going to do is the trees and the shadows. So give him about 5 or 10 minutes to dry, maybe more like 20 or 30. Go ahead, go away and have a snack and come back, or do a little bit of homework and come back. And then what we're going to do is, then we're going to do the shadows. I'm going to go ahead and start them now. I'm just going to be extra careful, because what happens is if you do it while it's still wet, it's tricky. So remember how our long shadows go right off the edge of the page, like so. And then I can either leave my trees white and they can be like birch trees, or I can take the gray and put a little bit of gray, not permanent marker. Let him dry, put your name on the back, and you can send me a picture of it. Or you can even bring it into school when we come face to face. Until next time, I'll see you again at home with Mrs. Hodkin.